All right, so a couple different takes on the traditional hip flexor stretches here. Many of you are familiar with just a traditional hip flexor stretch or a derivation of what people call the couch stretch, anything like that. And that's where you put that back leg up. And again, it can be a wall. We're using a bench for the purposes of today. And we get a nice deep stretch through the rectus femoris, the hip flexor, so on and so forth, having this hip extension. Traditionally, you'll see kind of pulsing forward, making sure that we don't arch at the low back. We want the motion to actually come from the hip. Pulsing forward, squeezing this back glute to release a little bit of that hip flexor. Again, you have to think about this antagonistic relationship that they have with one another, reciprocal inhibition. Now you can amplify that, and you've seen this plenty of times likely, but if not, you just grab a sturdy band, and you want to get it up nice and close to your personal region there, and you're going to have that back leg elevated again, and this just allows you to pulse into it and guide it a little bit more. Again, it's better to just have some active range of motion here instead of just hanging out. You hang out, you tend to get lazy, and again, you'll get that range of motion through your low back instead of actively moving through the hip. Now, what's another variation? I love something that I've found that is far more effective for me is not only getting that back leg elevated, but also the front foot into a little bit more hip flexion. So you could do this without a band, and that's going to intensify it enough. Okay, and again, this doesn't have to be a bench. It can be a box, it can be a stool, anything that allows you to get that leg up. Again, it can be a wall. But getting this hip into flexion and this into extension allows you to get a little bit more range of motion. Also, if you're somebody that deals with knee pain, you can find that this alleviates a lot of that. It can help a tremendous amount, especially on days where you're doing lunges, split squats, squatting, or anything like that. And then finally, the big daddy of them all, we're going to take that band. We're going to go ahead and put the back foot in it again, cinch it up, and whatever leg the band is around, that is going to be the one behind you. Again, on the bench or the wall. The front knee is on the elevated plate. And again, if you don't have a plate, use anything you can. Books, whatever works. And just cinch yourself into that, nice and easy. I'll show you with the other leg so you can see from both angles. If I want my left leg in, I'm gonna put that in, nice and tall. And you wanna use different thickness band depending on what you can tolerate. You can see this hip is now in flexion, and I'm able to just guide myself into that. And that hits the hip at two different levels. Very easy, very straightforward, and can help a tremendous amount, especially if you're somebody that has traditional hip flexor or just hip tightness or a lack of hip mobility, or even if you have tremendous tension in your quads in general.